Welcome back to Bike Two-Wheel World, where today we're looking at one of the most unusual motorcycles to emerge from the 2026 lineup, the Benda Dark Flag 600 V4. If you thought the cruiser category was limited to traditional V-twin engines, classic proportions, and familiar styling, Benda is here to challenge that assumption. The Dark Flag 600 takes the cruiser concept and gives it something very different at its heart. A compact V4 engine. It is a motorcycle designed to attract riders who want the relaxed attitude and visual presence of a cruiser, but also want the character and mechanical sophistication of a multi-cylinder power plant. The 2026 Benda Dark Flag 600 is especially interesting because it represents another step in Benda's development of V4-powered motorcycles. The company previously introduced a 496cc V4 platform and later expanded its range with larger engines. For 2026, the Dark Flag 600 brings a substantially revised 598cc V4 design, with new engine cases, cylinders, and cylinder heads compared with the earlier 500. Official type approval information reported for the model indicates a claimed output of around 70 horsepower, giving this motorcycle a very different personality from conventional small and middleweight cruisers. And that is the first thing that makes the Dark Flag 600 worth discussing. This is not simply another cruiser with a larger engine. Benda is using the V4 configuration as one of the motorcycle's defining characteristics. A V4 can provide smooth power delivery, compact packaging, and a distinctive engine character, while also giving the motorcycle an identity that is difficult to confuse with anything else on the road. For a rider interested in something outside the traditional motorcycle formula, that alone could make the Dark Flag 600 extremely appealing. Visually, the Dark Flag 600 takes a modern approach to cruiser styling. Instead of relying entirely on chrome, rounded bodywork, and retro details, the motorcycle uses a more muscular and contemporary design language. The proportions emphasize the engine and chassis, while the low-slung profile gives the motorcycle a strong road presence. There is a deliberate balance between classic cruiser attitude and modern mechanical styling. From the front, the Dark Flag 600 has a commanding appearance. The headlight assembly is integrated into the overall design rather than looking like an isolated component. The front end communicates width and stability, while the handlebars and tank creates riding position intended to feel relaxed rather than aggressive. The motorcycle's front suspension and braking hardware also contribute to the substantial appearance. Move around to the side and the V4 engine becomes one of the biggest visual attractions. Instead of hiding the mechanical components behind excessive bodywork, Benda allows the engine to play an important role in the motorcycle's appearance. The four-cylinder configuration gives the engine bay a distinctive look, and the surrounding frame and components create a sense that the motorcycle was designed around its power plant rather than simply having an engine installed into an existing cruiser platform. The fuel tank has muscular surfaces that float toward the rider while maintaining the low, substantial stance expected from a cruiser. The seat position is another important part of the design philosophy. Benda has focused on keeping the rider relatively close to the ground, which can make the motorcycle feel more approachable when stationary. That low-slung character also contributes significantly to the visual identity of the Dark Flag 600. The rear section continues the modern cruiser theme. Instead of looking like a traditional touring motorcycle, the Dark Flag 600 has a more compact and visually dramatic tail. The rear wheel, suspension components, exhaust system, and surrounding bodywork create a strong mechanical presence. Details are important here because Benda is competing not only on specifications but also on personality. This is a motorcycle that is supposed to stand out when parked. One of the most interesting elements is the way Benda has packaged the V4 engine. The 598cc liquid-cooled engine uses four cylinders arranged in a V configuration, giving the motorcycle a mechanical character that is unusual for this category. According to reporting on the 2026 model, the new engine is substantially different from the earlier 496cc unit, rather than simply being an enlarged version of the previous design. The claimed output is approximately 70 horsepower. For a middleweight cruiser, that is a meaningful amount of power. especially when combined with the smoothness expected from a four-cylinder engine. But the numbers tell only part of the story. The real attraction of a V4 is the way the engine can deliver its power, rather than making the motorcycle feel like a traditional single or twin-cylinder cruiser. The V4 architecture has the potential to provide a smoother and more progressive character. That makes the Dark Flag 600 particularly interesting for riders who enjoy the sound and feel of multi-cylinder engines but still prefer the ergonomics and road presence of a cruiser. The engine should feel refined through ordinary riding, while offering stronger acceleration as the revs build. It is a different interpretation of what a middleweight cruiser can be. The liquid cooling system is another important feature. Managing engine temperature is especially important in a modern performance-oriented motorcycle, and liquid cooling allows the engine to maintain more consistent operating conditions across different riding situations. The result is an engine designed around modern emissions, performance, and durability requirements rather than simply reproducing an old-school cruiser formula. The transmission is another key part of the package. A multi-speed gearbox allows the rider to make better use of the engine's torque and power characteristics. In normal road use, the goal is smooth and predictable operation rather than simply chasing maximum performance. The V4 configuration should also help the motorcycle feel less stressed when maintaining steady cruising speeds. One of the major questions surrounding any motorcycle from a growing manufacturer is how the complete package performs away from the specification sheet. The Dark Flag 600 is interesting because its approximately 70 horsepower output puts it into useful middleweight performance category. It is not intended to compete directly with extreme superbikes, and that is actually part of its appeal. Instead, the motorcycle is about combining usable performance with distinctive styling and unusual engineering. The power delivery should be one of the biggest differences compared with a conventional cruiser. A typical cruiser philosophy emphasizes low revving to work and relaxed engine response. The Dark Flag 600's V4 architecture gives it the opportunity to behave differently, with a smoother transition through the rev range and a more energetic character as engine speed rises. For riders who want a cruiser that does not feel conventional, this could become one of the motorcycle's strongest selling points. At the same time, the Dark Flag 600 should not be viewed simply as a performance machine. Its overall design remains centered on comfortable road riding. The low-seat and cruiser-oriented ergonomics give it a laid-back identity, while the multi-cylinder engine adds a more sophisticated mechanical character. This combination is what separates it from many traditional motorcycles in the same broad displacement class. Handling is another area where the motorcycle's design becomes important. Cruiser motorcycles generally prioritize stability and confidence over ultralight steering, and the Dark Flag 600 follows that broader philosophy. The chassis is intended to provide a planted feeling while the rider sits in a relaxed position. This makes the bike particularly suited to normal road riding and longer stretches of pavement where comfort and stability matter more than aggressive cornering.